Welcome back, everyone. It's time for another episode of Do or Do Not. And today we are going to finally talk about Portal 2. And I know this game came out a couple months ago and I just slacked off on doing this review, but in the sense, it's given me a lot of time to think about the game and what I really like about the game and what I think could be probably a little better about the game. But to start off, I'm going to give it a solid do. You can find I've seen it on sale over the past couple weeks for like $40, so it's an absolute, you gotta buy it, especially for $40. $60, definitely good to buy, but 40, pretty much no question asked. Get this game if you've never played the original Portal. I've seen like the orange box for like $20 on Xbox 360, or just go on Steam if you're on PC and download it. I'm gonna say shy away from PS3 for the moment because it's all messed up and everyone's still having problems with it. But it's a game that's an essential Portal, if you're not familiar with it, it's a puzzle game where you can shoot one hole onto one wall and shoot another hole into another wall, and you can go through this hole and come out the other one. So it makes you critically think about the way you think about the environment and spaces and manipulation of objects to reach a certain goal. Valve is one of those companies that is a great company in the sense that they care enough about their products that they will say, it's coming, we're not done with it, and we don't know when it's going to be done because it'll be done when it's done because we want it to be good. And in a sense, that has held true for a lot of its titles. Half-Life, we're still waiting for episode 3 of Half-Life 2. We've seen it over and over. Portal 2, I think, in the sense, it felt a little rushed in the sense that it doesn't feel like a complete game and a complete experience. Not to say that I didn't love it and really enjoy playing it, because it's a great game and it only builds on what the basis of the original game was. It builds on it as a sequel. It introduces new elements. The element of co-op is amazing, which I'll come back to. My biggest problem is that it wasn't long enough. I beat the game in like 4.5 hours, which was about the same that it took me to beat Portal 1, which I did in one sitting, because I'm ridiculous like that. But Portal 2 still felt short. It was nice to have all these new elements to play with. It's been so long, I'm just going to spoil things where there's these new gels that allow you to like slide really fast or bounce on, or like this white liquid that covers walls that then you can shoot portals onto, because some places you just can't shoot portals. But what it didn't do is incorporate all the stuff from the previous game. Like, remember those bouncing orbs that used to bounce and you had to get them into little things on the walls that would power up additional things? There was none of that. There was lasers in this one which you had to reflect and go through portals and into, the little receptacles. But there wasn't a lot of combination. Even with the new elements, the lasers and the gels, you didn't really have to combine them and use them together to create this new experience. And some of this was in reaction, Valve has said, to a lot of player complaints that the first game was kind of hard, that whenever you were jumping through a portal you had to go directly into it, and now apparently there's an invisible cone that kind of helps you guide you into the portal, which is nice, because there was plenty of times in Portal 1 that you're just super frustrated because you can't make it into a portal and you're jumping over large gaps and falling in water. But that was part of the difficulty in terms of having to do that. Also, one thing that was missing is timing in this game. Much of Portal 1, and yes, I understand there was a lot of complaints about you'd be flying through the air and have to shoot a portal like into the ground or into a wall and time this very correctly to make sure that you pop back out of another portal and launch into the air and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't know, it felt like the difficulty was pretty much the same, if not a little lower, which was a little disappointing, since in a Valve, in Portal, there is no difficulty level. You're just playing it. The puzzles weren't overly complicated, especially through the single-player campaign. I managed to go through them pretty quick. There's maybe under 5 times I really felt I even died and had to start it over and go, oh, that's what I had to do. So it was a little disappointing, at least for me, not to say it wasn't fun. The voice acting's amazing. If you're familiar with Portal, like Portal 1, GLaDOS is the evil test chamber orb thing that's stringing you along and promising you cake. And this time we start the game with Wheatley, which is voiced by Stephen Merchant. If you don't know who Stephen Merchant is, he's one of the co-creators of the original Office, the British one. He's a tall, lanky, skinny guy, very different than Ricky Gervais, if you know Ricky, because he's very stocky and short. Stephen Merchant actually appeared in Hot Fuzz, a Simon Pegg movie. He's the guy with the geese. But anyways, Stephen Merchant is a hilariously funny guy, and he brings personality to Wheatley that is completely spot on, and just adds that other element. And I read an interview with Stephen after he got done doing all the voicing for this game and said he's like, I'm never going to do this again. I basically dreaded hating coming into work to have to give the voice to this, because people think, oh, people just show up and they read lines off a script, but you do like 6 or 7 or 8 or 20 takes of like the same line over and over again. So I can see how it'd be completely exhausting to stand in a room the size of your closet and have to talk into a microphone by yourself for days on end to do all the voice. Another person that did voice work was J.K. Simmons. You might recognize him as Spider-Man's boss in the Spider-Man's movie. He has the salt and pepper hair and usually has a mustache. Hilariously gruff, gritty guy, and you see him a little later in the game. Just another perfectly casted moment to the construction of the world of Portal. There was some criticism about the storyline for Portal 2. Honestly, I didn't care. I don't think of the Portal games as being story-centric games. Yes, there is something that kind of carries through the game that keeps you intrigued, and there's lots of throwbacks to Portal 1 throughout Portal 2, but it's not a game I think about as this is a story game and it's going to, have really good writing and really good, it's just fun moments, and, Wheatley's ridiculous and he says things to you, and then Gladys ends up showing up later and she just continues to put you down, and it's hilarious. I think it's great, the writing that went into this game. Single player, it's good. There's DLC coming this summer. Valve has already said it's free, so I'm only hoping that, we're getting some more test chambers and some speed runs and some other things like this incorporated into the game, and I'm very happy that it's going to be free, and hopefully it will give some replayability to the game, which was another one of the things that I was down on, and I said, I beat the game, and I don't have much reason to go back and play it again, and hopefully this DLC will help. It sounds like my review's being pretty negative. I do really like the game, but it just hasn't had that lasting impression. Co-op. I do think co-op is a good point of this game. It brings in a brand new element to the game. It was its own kind of, not storyline, but section of the game in terms of there's a single player chunk, and then here's like an equally as big, maybe not as big, but pretty substantial chunk for co-op. And it just forces you to think in a completely different way, because player 1 has their own 2 portals, which both players can use, and player 2 has both their portals, which both people can use. So it really makes you think in these different ways about how you use portals to get places and achieve different effects. And it was fun, and a lot of times I played co-op side-by-side split screen on the same TV, which helped, especially for the communication part, because there's some built-in controls where you can show the other person where to shoot their portals and this other things, but I think it's imperative that you be able to talk to the other person you're playing with for sure. And a lot of the times, we found ourselves overthinking things. We'd get to the end of a puzzle, and we're like, how do we get the other person up to the end? I'm at the end, but the other person's not up to the end, and then we're like, oh, shoot a portal here, shoot a portal here, and it was done. But it was fun to have to think differently about the situations you were in. And, they introduce like these walls that if you go through them, it closes all your portals, so you have to think in sequence about where you're going to do and how it's going to happen. So, overall, especially for $40, go get Portal. It's an absolute do. I can't only imagine where this, hopefully they're going to do more with Portal. It's such a big success, and hopefully they'll expand, but at the same time, I don't know where they're going to expand to in terms of what Valve has in store. So, check it out. We'll be back again next time with some more Do's or Do Nots. Adios.